The introduction. Leftist ideology, a grand experiment in societal engineering, has promised utopia while often delivering unintended consequences. From its philosophical roots to its modern incarnations, leftism has thrived on the promise of justice, equality, and reform, yet history reveals a more complex, sometimes ironic reality. Part 1. The early foundations of leftist thought. Leftist ideals date back to ancient civilization where figures like Plato, Confucius, and Aristotle pondered justice and social harmony. While these thinkers didn't envision the leftist movement we see today, their musings were later appropriated by those seeking grand social transformation. Early religious movements, particularly Christianity, preached charity and communal living, principles that centuries later would be co opted into leftist economic thought. The Enlightenment of the 17th and 18th century ushered in thinkers like Jean Jacques Rousseau and Thomas Paine, who championed the social contract and the idea that governments must be built on the consent of the governed, a sentiment that leftist movements have wielded, sometimes successfully, sometimes disastrously. Part 2. The rise of socialism and communism. The Industrial Revolution of the 18th and 19th century exposed class divisions, given rise to socialist and communist ideologies as reactions to capitalist expansion. Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels offered a radical vision. Class struggle would lead to overthrow of capitalism and ultimately a utopian classless society. The simplicity of the promise is especially seductive to the naive and the young who lack skin in the game. Marxism takes an aggressive approach, resulting in regimes that promise worker liberation but deliver totalitarian rule. 20th century Marxism produced the Soviet Union in 1917, Maoist China in 1949, and Fidel Castro in Cuba in 1959. The results? Varying degrees of authoritarianism, economic dysfunction, and ideological purges, all justified in the name of worker liberation. Leftist ideology of the 20th century. After World War II, leftist thought shifted gears. Western Europe embraced social democracy, blending welfare policies with capitalist markets. In contrast to the disastrous central planning economies of Marxist regimes, civil rights movements in the US, Latin America, and Africa borrowed heavily from the leftist ideals, seeking a racial, gender, and economic equality, though not without their own contradictions and setbacks. The Cold War from 1947 to 1991 divided the world into ideological camps, the capitalist West and the communist East. Leftist revolutions erupted globally, often leading not to freedom, but to authoritarian regimes under the guise of liberation. The 60s and 70s saw the emergence of a new left, no longer just about economics, but now about social and cultural revolution, feminism, LGBTQ plus rights, environmentalism, anti war activism took center stage, pushing the left into new ideological territory. Yet modern leftism is as fragmented as ever, ranging from mild social democrats to radical activists who seek systematic overhaul. The resurgence of democratic socialism in the US and Europe calls for stronger welfare states, universal health care, and climate action, though often without clear answers for funding or implementation. Contemporary debates over the wealth inequality, corporate power, racial justice, and climate change are often framed through leftist lenses, but the solutions remain contentious and deeply polarizing. Leftist movements now face new challenges: right wing populism, economic globalization, and technological disruption. While some adapt, others cling to outdated models that have repeatedly failed in practice. Part 5. The brilliance of the left and the right. The brilliance of the left. The left's greatest strength lies in the advocacy for social justice, equality, and humanitarian progress, from civil rights movements to environmental protection. Leftist ideals have expanded individual freedoms and pushed societies towards inclusivity. The brilliance of the right. The right's enduring value is in its emphasis on tradition, economic pragmatism, and personal responsibility. By preserving cultural and national identity, advocating for free markets, and prioritizing stability, right wing thought provides a counterbalance to leftist driven change. Both ideologies have contributed to human progress in different ways, and their interplay creates the tension necessary for societies to evolve while maintaining order. My own analogy around this is society is like a car on the road to progress. Liberals or progressives are the accelerator. And if they're talking about acceleration at all costs, like I'm sure someone in your orbit is ushered, use that phrase, we need to do this at all costs. And when they do, you can rest assured that the person who utters something like that has rarely, if ever, studied any of the costs. So it's natural to actually react from a conservative perspective. So it's to tap the brake. So again, to the analogy of society is like a car on the road to progress, and progressives are the accelerator. That makes conservatives the brakes. Ask yourself, would you ever get into a car that didn't have an accelerator or didn't have a brake? We need both. And the concept of left and right is so old. It's been with us since ancient times. Even as long ago as the French Revolution. So the people who want to reform sat on the left side of the room, and the people who wanted the status quo sat on the right side of the room. And we've been using left and right ever since to describe that dynamic. So this is not something new. It's something that we deal with in our tribal minds. So the brilliance of the left is the empathy and social justice, the progress and innovation. The brilliance of the right, stability and tradition. So on the left, we're looking at welfare and humanitarianism. Policies promoting universal health care, education, social safety nets have significantly improved the quality of life of many societies. Environmental advocacy. The left has been at the forefront of climate change awareness and pushing for sustainable policies to protect future generations. They deal with cultural expansion, emphasizing diversity and inclusion. The left has encouraged artistic, philosophical, and social movements that challenge conventional norms and expand human creativity. The brilliance of the right. We get stability and tradition. The right provides a grounded force, preserving culture, religious, and national tradition that gives societies cohesion and identity. Economic pragmatism. Right wing policies often emphasize free markets, entrepreneurship, and limited government, which can lead to innovation and economic growth. Law and order. A focus on personal responsibility, national security, and law enforcement fosters a social order and stability. Skepticism of utopianism. The right serves as a counterbalance to radical change, ensuring that policies are practical, sustainable, and based on historical precedent. Personal freedoms and autonomy. Right wing ideologies often advocate for individual rights, property ownership, the ability to succeed or fail based on merit rather than government intervention. Both ideologies have their flaws and excesses, but when balanced, they create a dynamic tension that fosters societal progress while maintaining stability. So the conclusion is leftist ideology has played a critical role in shaping modern society, sometimes fostering progress, sometimes creating new dilemmas. Whether it remains a constructive force or a cautionary tale in the future remains to be seen. The way I see it is the left and the right get things wrong. They get them wrong for the same reasons, but they're wrong in different ways. Like, for example, the right tends to feel that if someone's on welfare, it's because they want to be. They don't want to work. And the left gets it wrong that they assume that human beings are perfectible, that you can actually create a utopia on earth, which you cannot. There's been no evidence to support that claim ever. In fact, millions of human beings have died in the pursuit of prosecuting a utopia on earth. And it's because the left has a blind spot, really two. The first one is they think you can teach anyone to do anything, and you can't. This might come as a shocker, but the way statistics work is 50% of all people have a below average IQ. Now, if you were shocked by that statistic, you're in good company. It shocked Dwight Eisenhower. So because there are people that have lower IQs and that directly affects their production and output, What happens here is you cannot teach everyone to do anything. They also suffer from a blind spot around assuming that the economy is a zero-sum game. So if you're successful, it meant you stole it from somebody else, and that's not how it works. In fact, poverty doesn't need examination. It's been the companion of mankind for eons of time. What does deserve explanation is wealth. How is wealth created? And this channel is going to be all about that. So be sure to subscribe and hit the like bell for more videos just like this.